Insects and creatures may be small, but that doesn't mean they can't cause problems for larger animals, because even though they don't have much in terms of muscle, what they have in abundance is venom. These are frightening creatures you don't want to mess with. Here are the 20 most venomous and bizarre insects in the world. But before we get started, make sure to subscribe to our channel and leave your like. Now, let's get started. Number 1. Puss caterpillars. Now, trust me when I say you definitely do not want to touch the puss caterpillar. Seriously, just don't do it. They may look cute at first, but that charming appearance is just a trap. A trap designed to lure fools and unsuspecting predators who, when they get too close, end up getting stung with excruciating pain. Anyone who dares to mess with them will deeply regret it the moment they do. I'm not exaggerating. The sting of the puss caterpillar is so painful that at first, you might not even feel the impact, but the venom spreads and can be felt for weeks, affecting you intensely. Fortunately, the puss caterpillars are only dangerous to humans when they fall from trees or are accidentally touched. Also known as the southern flannel moth caterpillar, these creatures are small but extremely venomous. They can be found in the southern United States, as well as in Central and South America. While their cute, furry appearance may seem harmless, the soft hairs of these caterpillars conceal venomous spines that cause an extremely painful sting. Any contact with these spines leads to severe reactions such as intense pain, swelling, and even nausea. So, despite their harmless-looking appearance, it's best to keep a safe distance. And if you happen to be one of the unfortunate people who come into contact with them, you'll wish these caterpillars had never been born. Number 2. The toxic tiger butterfly. Now, you probably didn't expect to find a butterfly on this list, something so beautiful, but there's a phrase that describes the toxic tiger butterfly perfectly. Pretty, but deadly. Well, deadly in the right context, of course. These butterflies have evolved to store toxins within their bodies and on the surface of their wings, so predators quickly learn that they should leave them alone, not risking touching them due to their foul odor and repulsive taste. That's right, they use these toxins to make their taste extremely unpleasant, and it works very well as the toxins are released immediately when the butterfly is captured. Interestingly, the toxin they use is the same one employed by the cone snail, a much more aggressive predator. However, scientists still don't know exactly how this same toxin came to be used by the tiger butterfly, as its application by the butterfly is much less obvious in terms of direct aggression. Anyway, this venom serves as a defense, allowing the butterfly to survive in its predator-filled habitat without suffering significant harm. Number 3. Bull ants. Are you surprised that we have several species of ants on this list? Well, you shouldn't be, considering the vast number of ants all over the world and the way animals of all kinds can evolve to ensure their survival. In fact, the bull ant possesses one of the deadliest toxins on the planet, especially when it comes to animals. This is due to the fact that it is constantly hunted by birds and other creatures. In other words, tired of being an easy prey, the bull ant developed its venom to keep predators at bay. This is, in some ways, inspiring, but don't be fooled by the story. These ants have caused the death of humans. In fact, they have frequent contact with humans and end up killing one every 4 hours. Moreover, they are also known to kill dogs and other creatures, depending on the severity of the venom released when delivering their fatal bite. The venom is so potent that it can be lethal to different species, and the bull ant continues its role as an effective and deadly predator in its habitat. Number 4. The Amazon giant centipede. Now let's address the obvious question. How big is the Amazon giant centipede? Well, it can grow to about 30 centimeters in length, which means it will be hard to miss if you come across one, or at least, that's the expectation. To date, there has been only one fatal case involving a human and the Amazon giant centipede, which occurred when the creature hid inside an open soda can, biting the boy as he tried to drink from it. It's not a pleasant story, but unfortunately, it happened. This is one of the largest centipede species in the world, potentially surpassing 30 centimeters in length. It inhabits the dense forests of the Amazon and is famous for its predatory skills and venomous bite. Despite its feared reputation, it mainly feeds on insects, small vertebrates, and even bats. Its venom, while potent, rarely presents a life-threatening risk to humans, but it can cause intense pain and swelling. The Amazon giant centipede plays an important role in the ecosystem, acting both as a predator and prey, helping to maintain the balance of the tropical forest. Number 5. The Bombardier beetles. While many creatures on this list are dangerous because they can kill you while they're alive, There are some that are only dangerous if consumed, creating a sort of instinctive knowledge in certain species to avoid touching the creature. The Bombardier beetle species is one of these, possessing a toxin so potent that consuming just a few of them can kill animals like horses. No human has ever died from them as far as we know. However, there's a catch. They are beetles and can be found in farmers' fields, especially those with alfalfa. They undergo a special process to ensure that the beetles are killed and don't escape before the crops are processed. This shows how seriously farmers and people take these beetles. These beetles aren't just a concern for animals, but also pose a risk to agricultural production, as the toxin they carry can affect other living beings that come into contact with them. This makes controlling their population a priority for those dealing with sensitive crops. While Bombardier beetles do not directly threaten humans, the risk of accidental poisoning, especially in agricultural areas, should not be underestimated. Therefore, precautions to avoid inadvertent consumption or contact with these insects are essential. Number 6. The velvet ant. Now, I admit the next one is a bit curious because the velvet ant, as it's most commonly known, has another name that might give you a good visual: the cow killer ant. And why is it called that? Well, it's not because it actually killed a cow, that's for sure. There's no record of this thing being powerful enough to take down a cow, but the name comes from the sting of this ant, which is so strong it was believed to be painful enough to knock out a cow where it stood. On the pain index, I mentioned it scored 3 out of 4, which is quite painful. Luckily, pain is the only thing you'll have to worry about, as its venom is not fatal at all. Sometimes pain is worse than death, and if you happen to be stung by more than one of these creatures at the same time, you might end up wishing for that sweet embrace of death. Or not. I suppose that really depends on who you are. Number 7. Yellow jackets. Yellow jackets are one of those insects that people naturally know to stay away from, and for good reason. When they sting you, it hurts a lot. Really a lot. In addition, unlike some other creatures that sting, they can sting you repeatedly without the fear of dying. The only thing they have to fear is their stinger getting stuck in your body, which is obviously another bad thing for you. They are known for their aggressiveness, especially when they feel their nest is being threatened. This makes the situation much more dangerous because if you invade their space or just get too close, they become extremely irritated and will attack in mass. Within seconds, you could be surrounded by dozens or even hundreds of them, and the impact of multiple stings is not only incredibly painful, but it can also cause serious health problems for some people, like anaphylaxis. Can they kill you? Well, if you're allergic, it could happen, but for the rest of us, we just need to worry about how painful it will be, especially if you're stung by a swarm and not just an individual. Multiple stings can lead to swelling, difficulty breathing, and, in severe cases, even death. But it's important to note that these fatal reactions are rare. Still, it's always a good idea to keep your distance and avoid agitating a nest since they attack with speed and precision. Number 8. The tarantula hawk wasp. Given the name, you might think I'm talking about various types of insects, but in fact, I'm talking about one particular wasp. The tarantula hawk wasp is a very curious creature with a very deadly sting for certain entities, and that's just the beginning of its praise. For humans, it probably won't be fatal, but it will absolutely be painful. The man who created the pain index for insect stings and bites rated it as the most painful sting in the world, even saying that if you get stung by one, you should just fall to the ground and start screaming until the pain eventually fades from your body. The pain is intense and can last for a long time. Even after the initial pain subsides, the discomfort continues for hours and the consequences can spread throughout your body. However, if you're a tarantula, this wasp will sting you, kill you, and then use your body for its offspring, literally laying its eggs inside of you and making them grow. This process is extremely disturbing because while you're still alive, the wasp deposits its eggs inside your body. When the larvae hatch, they feed on you while you're still alive, but without your awareness of what's happening until death finally arrives. This can be very unsettling for anyone trying to imagine that scene. So, even though the stings of this wasp aren't fatal for humans, what it does to its victims can be even more terrifying, showing just how ruthless and lethal it truly is. Number 9. The black widow. Due to its popularity worldwide, you might think that the black widow spider is one of the deadliest creatures on the planet, but in reality, it's not. Is it dangerous? Well, yes, incredibly. Is it fatal? Not really. It's a myth that black widows regularly kill people, unlike a certain other spider I've already mentioned. They only bite in self-defense, and fatalities tend to occur mostly in people with weaker immune systems. The thing is, their bites cause a lot of pain and issues, including swelling, sweating, and other symptoms like nausea, vomiting, restlessness, or even increased blood pressure. In severe cases, you might experience respiratory failure, so again, it's not a deadly spider, but you'll regret getting on its wrong side if you ever encounter one. Number 10. House centipedes. I showed you part of the equation for pain earlier, and here's the other part. Meet the house centipede, a creature you definitely don't want to mess with because it'll leave a mark, and you'll be feeling the results of that mark for days. Their bites are considered dangerous for humans because they are extremely painful and can cause severe swelling that can last for days. Remember that sting you felt before? Now imagine that on a larger scale, because the bite of this creature is much more intense. And the worst part is that, because they are so small, you often don't notice when you're bitten, but soon enough, you start feeling the discomfort. While house centipedes are generally not fatal, their attacks can be so uncomfortable that you'll want to avoid any contact with them. Additionally, these bites can cause allergic reactions in some people, which further increases the risk, and the pain doesn't go away quickly. The house centipede is one of the few creatures that can invade your home and cause you harm with a bite that can last for several days. This makes it one of the creatures you really want to keep your distance from if you want to avoid this kind of prolonged annoyance. So, never underestimate the impact of these small creatures. They can be far more problematic than they appear at first glance. Number 11. Brazilian wandering spider. Do you want the good news or the bad news about the Brazilian wandering spider? If you want the good news, well, because of this spider's notoriety, an effective antidote has been developed to treat its bite. So, as long as you get treatment within a reasonable time after the bite, your chances of recovery are quite high, which is a relief. The bad news, however, is that the reason such an effective antidote is needed is because the Brazilian wandering spider is one of, if not the most lethal spider in the world. And while the Guinness World Records continues to update its lists of the most venomous spiders, this spider has been recognized multiple times, which should give you a good idea of how deadly it can be. The spider is so deadly that its name in Greek means assassin, which isn't exactly a friendly nickname. Seems like the name is well earned, right? Another reason for its name is that they walk through the Brazilian rainforests at night looking for food, making it harder for humans to spot them and thus increasing the chances of getting bitten. This is especially dangerous in remote areas where access to medical care can be delayed. However, to be fair, despite their deadly stats and terrifying appearance, Brazilian wandering spiders don't actively seek out humans as prey, nor do they have the desire to bite them. They attack only in self-defense. This means that if you're bitten by one of these creatures, there's a good chance you somehow startled it, and likely put yourself in a situation that led to the attack. The moral of the story is that, while it's extremely important to be aware of the danger they represent, it's also essential to respect nature's space and not disturb it. After all, that's how nature works sometimes. If you invade a creature's territory, you're more likely to face the consequences. Sorry, but that's the reality. Number 12. Africanized bee. If you're thinking that this name might sound familiar, it's probably because you know it by its other name, the killer bee. There are many myths about bees and how dangerous they are, including the idea that all species are secretly killers if you mess with their hive or get too close. But that's a lie, because most bees don't have lethal venom, and their stings are typically not fatal, except in cases of severe allergic reactions. The exception to this rule are the Africanized bees, which are much more aggressive than common bees. These bees weren't born naturally. They were actually created by a scientist with the intention of developing a special species of bee to help with pollination. However, instead of creating a docile bee, the scientist inadvertently created the most aggressive bees in the world. And I'm not exaggerating when I say these bees are so aggressive that they not only attack you, but they release a swarm of killer bees on anyone who poses a threat or an intrusion into their territory. They sting relentlessly and keep attacking until the person involved can protect themselves or flee. The situation gets even worse if the victim tries to run away. They will chase you and follow you for long distances. It has been recorded that they chase victims for more than a quarter of a mile. Such is the rage of these bees. Additionally, it's important to note that it has been confirmed that swarms of Africanized bees have killed over 1,000 people over the years. This is not just scary or unsettling. It's an extremely dangerous situation that requires seriousness. Fortunately, these swarms of bees are not everywhere, but if you notice that a swarm is nearby, it's crucial to contact pest control immediately and report the situation. Better safe than sorry, as they say. In situations like these, caution is the best choice. And perhaps in the future, scientists really need to rethink their experiments and stop creating monstrous creatures. Haven't they learned anything from movies and TV shows? This never ends well. Number 13. The Botfly. Now, I won't lie, this creature is pretty gross. The Botfly is not a venomous creature. It won't kill you and it won't poison you. However, it has a pretty disgusting way of surviving during its growth stages, and that's scary enough to make it onto this list. It turns out that the Botfly is a parasitic creature, meaning it needs a host to complete its life cycle. The twist is that, unlike flies that need blood or other substances to survive, all the Botfly really needs is a safe space to grow, specifically inside a body. That's why many of them seek out living creatures to insert their eggs into, letting their babies grow inside the host, often without the host even realizing what's happening or being able to remove them in time. Some botflies lay their eggs in places like the belly button of cows or deer, where they find the damp and protected environment necessary for development. But what about humans? Well, one of the more bothersome variations of this species is the human botfly, and they use mosquitoes to inject eggs into people, which then grow under the skin until they are ready to emerge. If this sounds like a horror movie, well, it's almost that. I know of at least one real case where a person had botfly eggs inserted near their eye, and the worms grew into a bump just below the skin until a doctor had to remove them. The larvae can cause inflammation and pain as they feed on tissues, and the removal process can be painful and complicated. So, if you think one of these flies is developing inside you, it's crucial to seek medical attention immediately. Early removal of the larvae can prevent more severe complications and allow for a quicker recovery, but the mere thought of having these parasites growing under your skin is enough to give anyone the chills. Number 14. Fire ants. It's almost poetic that we have ants on this list, as they are one of the first things people think of when talking about insects. They're outside, they can invade your home if you don't clean properly enough, or even appear in other places, like your garden, when the conditions are favorable. When it comes to fire ants, they are one of the most notorious species in the world, and you look at them and instantly know you don't want to be stung. You're absolutely right to think that way. The reason they're called fire ants is simple. Their stings contain venom that causes an intense burning sensation, almost like fire. The twist is that, despite their extremely painful stings, they rarely, if ever, will kill you. Typically, if someone dies from fire ant stings, it's due to severe allergic reactions or an underlying condition in the body that worsens the situation. Their sting, in addition to being painful, can cause swelling and blisters, and in some people, it can result in more severe symptoms, such as difficulty breathing. These incidents are rare, but in extreme cases, an allergic reaction can be fatal. Fire ants use their venom for several reasons: to take down smaller prey, protect their colonies, and even to dominate the territory they live in. The good news is that since these ants are common in many tropical countries, if you're stung by one, there are effective medical treatments to help alleviate the wounds and reduce the burning sensation. Antihistamines and pain-relieving creams can be very helpful, and you'll rarely need more intense treatment unless the reaction is very severe. But, as with any situation involving venomous or dangerous animals, it's best not to tempt fate. Even though fire ants aren't prone to killing, they can still cause serious damage to your body, and no one wants to live with the consequences of such a sting. Number 15. The brown recluse spider. Yes, I know spiders aren't insects, but again, people tend to group insects and spiders together, so I'll include them in this list. And yes, spiders are scary and gross, just like many other insects in the world. However, when it comes to spiders, there are several that can be extremely dangerous, and some of them can even kill with just 1 or 2 bites. The brown recluse is one of those you need to keep an eye out for if you live in or frequent areas where they are common, as their habitat spans a wide range, making them one of the 3 deadliest spiders in North America. Now, what makes these spiders so dangerous? Well, they have multiple levels of venom in their bite, and some of these venoms are so powerful that they can literally cause the death of human tissue. I'm not exaggerating here. A brown recluse bite can destroy skin cells and leave you with a massive, highly infected wound. Their venom acts aggressively, destroying not only the skin but also the blood vessels and muscles around the bite area, resulting in necrosis. This can lead to the need for complex medical treatments and, in more severe cases, even amputation of body parts. Unfortunately, some people have died from these spiders' bites, but there's an important context here. The victims were usually children or people with already compromised immune systems. In most cases, the venom isn't fatal for healthy adults, but it can cause significant damage. There was even a case of a house infested with thousands of brown recluse spiders, but surprisingly, they never bit anyone, which proves that these creatures prefer to stay away from humans unless they feel threatened. Even so, you shouldn't test your luck. The bites from these spiders can lead to serious complications, and no one wants to go through that kind of suffering, especially if it can be avoided. So, when you encounter a brown recluse spider, it's best not to interact with it, as the risk of having dead, necrotic tissue in your body isn't worth it. Number 16. The deer tick. Remember when I said that the small can be deadly? Well, the deer tick, or simply ticks in general, are another clear example of that phrase being true and literal. Despite being incredibly small, the deer tick is one of the most dangerous insects you can encounter in nature. What they do is approach you without you noticing, find a spot where they can suck your blood, and then stay there, biting you and infecting you with Lyme disease. Additionally, the worst part is that they are so clever with the diseases they can carry that they have other equally serious conditions that can be transmitted to people. Among these diseases are anaplasmosis and babesiosis, which can cause severe health problems with symptoms like high fever, chills, muscle aches, and extreme fatigue. Some of these diseases, if not treated properly, can even be fatal. But you might think, I wouldn't notice this creature on me. The answer, unfortunately, is no. You see, when the tick bites you, it releases a type of anesthetic in its bite, which makes you feel nothing and not react to the sting. This allows it to continue its task without much trouble, and you don't even realize it's feeding. This can last for hours or even days, which is extremely dangerous because you could be infected with a variety of pathogens without even knowing it. A true story. I once went on a hunting trip with some family members in an area known to have ticks, and a week later, while we were at home, we were all scratching our backs and found a tick stuck. Who knows how long it had been there, but I don't need to say that no one was happy to discover it. Fortunately, I didn't get Lyme disease, but in 2016, about 30,000 people contracted the disease just in the United States. This shows how these tiny creatures can be extremely dangerous, and you need to stay alert when you're in areas known to have ticks. Number 17. The Kentucky flat millipede. Now, I'm finally moving away from the caterpillars, but I'm about to introduce something much longer and perhaps more intimidating: millipedes. I know they're technically not insects, but they're equally scary, and people often group them with insects, so I'm going with that. Besides, that's what I'm paid for, right? Now, one detail that might surprise you about the Kentucky flat millipede is that it's not as deadly as many other creatures on this list, but it is dangerous in ways you might not have imagined, and I feel it's important to mention. For example, as a natural defense mechanism, the Kentucky flat millipede secretes cyanide. That's right, cyanide, a highly toxic poison that, in small amounts, can be extremely harmful. And they say that if you handle one of these millipedes for any reason, it's crucial to wash your hands immediately to ensure that the cyanide doesn't come into contact with your skin and cause serious damage. While it's not lethal in small amounts, cyanide is still a substance that can cause severe adverse reactions, including dizziness, respiratory difficulties, and even death, depending on the amount and duration of exposure. So, caution is essential when dealing with these creatures. But what really makes the Kentucky flat millipede a fascinating and even slightly terrifying creature is the parasite that can live inside it. This parasite is capable of controlling the millipede's body and forcing it to perform specific actions, including climbing to a high location when the millipede dies, so that the parasite can explode the millipede's body from the inside out. This explosion spreads the parasite's spores to other creatures, continuing its life cycle. This behavior is an example of how parasites can have extremely complex and lethal control over their victims. I know, this sounds like something out of a horror movie, but it's a reality in the natural world. I feel like I've heard something similar in movies or stories, but I sincerely hope this doesn't happen to humans. If it did, well, we'd be something very similar to what we see in The Last of Us, where creatures are controlled and used to spread an infection. Thankfully for us, that's just fiction. Number 18. The assassin caterpillar. The assassin caterpillar is a real creature, and over the years, it has been responsible for disrupting the lives of some humans, especially in the regions where it's found. It's considered the deadliest caterpillar in the world, and all it takes is a few stings from this creature to make you faint and face serious life-threatening risks. I bet you wouldn't want to collect this one, right? And who could blame you? The good news is that this caterpillar is only found in South America, which means, for most of you, it won't be an immediate concern, as it's not common in other parts of the world. However, the bad news is that it's not just a potential threat, it has already been confirmed as a cause of deaths, with more than 500 cases recorded over the years. Another scary characteristic of this creature is its size. It's small, measuring only about 5 centimeters in length. But like many other deadly creatures in nature, its harmless appearance can be deceiving. The spots covering its body, especially in the more sensitive areas, can puncture the skin of anyone who gets too close, injecting an extremely dangerous venom. This venom has the ability to prevent your blood from clotting properly, leading to severe internal bleeding, which can be fatal if not treated quickly. You can imagine the problems this can cause, such as uncontrollable bleeding, hemorrhages, and organ complications. Furthermore, the venom can severely affect your vital organs, causing them to stop functioning properly. This can lead to multiple organ failure, a condition that, as you can imagine, is extremely serious and potentially fatal. Even a single sting from an assassin caterpillar can trigger this reaction, making it one of the most feared creatures in South America. Small but deadly is a description that fits this caterpillar perfectly. Its existence is a reminder of how, in the natural world, beauty and innocence often hide impressive dangers. And in the end, it's always good to remember that not all creatures, no matter how small, should be underestimated. This caterpillar is proof that in nature, appearances can be deceiving. Number 19. The saddleback caterpillar, not what you expected. After all, caterpillars are creatures that many people enjoy collecting in our culture because at times they can be incredibly adorable. Many people are fascinated by watching them transform into butterflies. And, honestly, it's hard to criticize them for that, isn't it? The idea of tracking an insect's life cycle is fascinating. However, as with all creatures in nature, some choose more violent paths instead of simply yielding to the end of their life cycle, and that means there are some caterpillars you'll definitely want to avoid. The saddleback caterpillar is a perfect example of this. This small creature is much more than it appears to be. While its shape and colors may seem interesting at first glance, you should keep your distance if you don't want to face serious health problems. So, what makes this caterpillar so dangerous? Well, the hairs covering its body secrete a potent venom that can take down any predator that gets too close or tries to eat it. For humans, the effects can vary widely. If you're lucky, the only thing you'll feel is skin irritation, possibly accompanied by nausea and a general feeling of unwellness. But if you're unlucky, the poisoning could turn into a much more severe experience. The venom of this caterpillar is highly toxic and can cause a series of serious symptoms and reactions, including intense migraines, gastrointestinal complications like vomiting and diarrhea, severe respiratory issues, especially for those with asthma, anaphylactic shock, and even internal bleeding. These symptoms should not be underestimated, as in extreme cases, they can lead to death. One of the most feared reactions is bleeding, which can be fatal if not treated quickly, causing irreversible damage to the body. It was even said that if you want to collect this caterpillar for study or curiosity, it's essential to dispose of its hairs immediately because any contact with the venom can be lethal. This is definitely sound advice. Unlike some harmless creatures, the saddleback caterpillar prefers a direct confrontation and, if threatened, will use every means possible to defend itself. In the end, it's best to keep your distance from these caterpillars. Nature has its rules, and some creatures choose to protect their lives in a very drastic way. While the life cycle of a butterfly is fascinating, the story of the saddleback caterpillar serves as a reminder that not everything beautiful or interesting should be touched or collected. After all, safety should always come first. Number 20. Asian giant hornet. Now let me take you back to a defining moment in our world's history, the year 2020. It was quite a memorable year, wasn't it? A global pandemic ravaged the planet. Chaos seemed to be taking over, and many leaders were making questionable choices. And then, the rumor about the murder hornets surfaced. Yes, you remember that story, right? They belonged to a special species of hornet from Asia that had made its way to the United States, and it was said that a sting could be instantly fatal. Many people were terrified, as it wasn't exactly what they needed. a swarm of deadly insects to add to the chaos they were already living through. The good news was that the invasion was exaggerated, just like the legend that these hornets would cause immediate death. The bad news, however, is that the Asian giant hornets do indeed exist, and under certain circumstances, they can be lethal. For example, contrary to what was said during the supposed invasion, they don't kill dozens of people in Japan every year, but they do cause some incidents. There have been cases of attacks where hornets form swarms that aggressively attack. Some even fly in large, coordinated groups, making the attack even more dangerous. However, what makes them dangerous is the possibility of attacking in groups, stinging multiple times without dying, and the venom from their stings can cause intense pain. Additionally, they can leave large, visible wounds on the skin, which are not pleasant to look at, often with severe inflammatory reactions. This effect can last for days, even weeks, and in more severe cases, it can lead to complications if not treated properly. Have they caused deaths? Yes, but again, this has happened under specific circumstances. The woman who died was stung dozens of times by a swarm, unable to escape as she was in a wheelchair. The venom from several stings can in fact lead to an anaphylactic shock if the person is allergic. This was the case in the fatal attack in Japan, and the situation was tragic. A single sting won't kill you, and by the way, it's not exactly a hornet, it's a bee. Just a little detail to think about. The point is, not every story you'll hear in this video will be an end-of-the-world scenario, but it's wise to keep an eye on some of these insects, just in case. Some areas, especially in Japan, have seen an increase in attacks by Asian giant hornets due to warmer climates, which promote a larger proliferation of these insects. Thank you so much for watching the video. If you enjoyed our content, make sure to subscribe to the channel and leave a like. Don't forget to check out other interesting content appearing on your screen right now, and I'll see you in the next video. See you next time.